Hello, so we're going to create some more compiler errors. I'm back from Jiu-Jitsu, and we'll see what we've got. So in the previous video, we had corrected some errors associated with, this type of error here. Cannot bind non-static L-value reference of type, in this case, a game object list reference. We can't bind that to an R value of type game object list. So in this particular case, this is the L value reference. You can see inventory is a reference to a game object list, which is an L value, something that has, storage in memory, like a variable name, inventory. Well, we can't bind an R value reference to that. So in this case, it's saying that player.getGameObjects is an R value reference, which means that player, which is an instance of the character class, the getGameObjects function or method associated with that character class obviously returns a game object by value only. That's what we solved in the previous video. And the way we solved that is, I'll just show you. Actually, we'll just quickly redo what we did. Was in the main class, Alice in Wonderland text-based adventure game, on line 259 and 260 here. A couple other spots as well. But we have player.getLocation. So again, player is of type character, and it has a getLocation method. And then map, which is of type Wonderland map, has a getLocation function, and both of them just return values of the location. And we were trying to assign values. So when you return something by value, it's just an R value reference. It's just a temporary value. It doesn't have storage in memory or anything like that. And we were trying to assign it to a reference for a location indicated by the ampersand. And more importantly, we were trying to assign it to a non-constant reference. So, where was it here? You cannot bind a non-constant L value reference. This is a non-constant L value reference. And what's that mean? Well, I don't have the keyword constant here. If I had the keyword constant here, then everything would be good. Now, how did I fix this? I didn't do that const thing. What I did was I went to the character class where the getLocation function is, because you can see it's in the character class. And then I went to the Wonderland map class and fixed the function there. So I went to both these classes, and originally they were set up where the getLocation function just returned a location, not a location by reference, which is this ampersand. So if I take away that ampersand, which I added in the last video, and if I go to the character class and do the same thing, take away this ampersand, now the function returns a location by value again, not by reference. So if I save those changes, I'm going to get back these two errors. What errors? Well, errors on lines 259 and 260. Those errors are going to come back, and you can see that they have already come back with the squiggly lines. And if we click it, the error is initial value of reference to a non-const must be an L value, and it's not. It's an R value. So if I go here and I recompile, we'll see that right now I've got 261 as the first error. It's going to be 259 and 260 in a second. Okay. So again, we've got the errors back, 259, 260, where again, you cannot bind a non-const L value reference to type, which is this. This is a non-const L value reference to an R value of type location. This red text returns an R value, a temporary value, location by value, and we can't assign it to a non-const L value. And we've got that twice for map as well. So the way I'd fixed it is I showed you. I'm just going to fix it for map. Is that we said, okay, one of the ways to fix it is have the location function, getLocation function, return a reference. And you do it by putting the ampersand here. It doesn't matter if you put the ampersand there or right here. It's just really a matter of preference. I'll put it here just to show you because I think it was already over here, which is kind of like a lot of people like that convention. I'll put it right next to location to show you it doesn't matter. When I do that, I've only changed the Wonderland map getLocation function. I haven't changed the character function. It still returns by value. So I'm still going to have an error here on player, indicated by the squiggly line, the red squiggly line, but I've corrected the error in 260. So here, when I recompile, error 260 should be gone, but 259 will persist. So So 259 stays. We still have that error, but 269. So that was the way I fixed it. Now, before I'd done it for both in the character class, when I put an ampersand here and return by reference, it would fix it. But I'm going to show you another way we could have fixed it. It kept saying a non-const L value reference. Well, what if I make it const? So let's make this player class const. Now it's a constant reference to location. See how the error went away? So when I recompile the code, this error 259 is going to go away. And you can see it's went away. Now we have error 261. And the reason for that is because you can't assign an R value, which is a temporary value, it doesn't have storage in memory. It's like a temporary value, something that's not a variable name. You can't assign that to a non-const reference, because a non-const reference is a reference and it's not constant, so you could change it, you could modify it. Well, I can't assign a temporary value to something that I could later modify, because the temporary value has no storage in memory. It's not stored anywhere, so how am I going to be able to modify it later? Like it doesn't really make sense, nonsensical. It's undefined behavior, that sort of thing. It doesn't allow it to work. However, if I make my L value reference constant, I'm saying, yeah, I want the thing as a reference, but I'm making it constant. It's not going to be ever changed. Well, if that's the case, if I can't change it, it allows me to take both L value references and R value references into a constant L value reference. And that's actually how we make our functions flexible, so that you can, like if I make it a print function, I can make a print function that took in a parameter. I'll just show you down here. Like if I was to create like some function print, like void print, that took something and printed it, and just have, some code here, just do something, right? Code to print the game state, sure. I would take the thing I'd want to take in here is some object, but I'd want to take it in as a reference, as a const reference. So if I took it in as a const reference, by doing this, I'm saying, and what am I taking in? I need some type. I'll take in an item, or a stood string. Okay, there. I'm taking an item, which is one of my user-defined classes, and it's called item. So if I'm taking this in now as a constant reference, it's saying that the thing that I take in here, I'm not going to change it. That's what the const keyword does. I'm not going to be changing it. I'm just printing it. But I do want it as a reference. Well, by doing it as a constant reference, I could pass both in items in here. This is a bad example because I can only take items, and my items are going to be either they're going to be R values or L values, let's say, but I can pass in both R values and L values and it'll work. If I didn't have this keyword const, I couldn't do that. That might not be a great example on the fly, but that's kind of what we're looking at here. If you make something a constant reference, it's a const L value reference, and it can accept both R value stuff, so temporary stuff like this is returning something by value, or it can take in, I could assign a variable to this, something in L value reference. I can't do that if it's not const. So either way we'll fix it. However, my fix for both before, was just to make them return by reference, both of them. So, and if again, I still shouldn't have the errors there because although I removed the const, I fixed it on the other end. And now, in this video, which we're already 9 minutes into and haven't talked about the new error, is we're going to deal with this error here, 261, where it says we cannot dynamic cast a game object container, get game objects, this function. We can't cast this game object to item. Okay, so we're trying to typecast something to be an item pointer, a pointer to an item. But we can't because the game object pointer, which is the source, is not polymorphic. So again, here we're trying to call the dynamic cast function of type item pointer. We're trying to dynamically cast, meaning at runtime. We're trying to call this current location dot get game objects dot this game object that takes an item name. So we take in some item name, we're talking about that game object. We're trying to get that from the inventory of game objects within a particular location. So the treasures within a particular location. We're trying to take that thing and typecast it to a pointer to an item. So a pointer to this item that's in this room. And assign that to item, the variable name, which is a pointer to an item. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this an item pointer and assign it to a variable of type item pointer. But it's not working because ultimately this function returns a game object pointer. And I guess I don't have it set up as polymorphic. I thought I did. I designed it that way. But again, I'm doing lots of different things, lots of different courses at the same time, and I obviously made a mistake. So I'm going to fix that. I'm going to end up making game object a polymorphic function, and hopefully that'll clear up this function. It'll also probably clear up this function down here, because this is the same thing, this game object, saying, the source, which is game object pointer, is not polymorphic. So we'll probably, and same thing I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do a dynamic cast of item pointer, dynamically cast this, which is a game object pointer, to an item pointer and assign it to an item pointer variable. So I'm probably going to clear up this error too, and probably clear up these two errors, which are doing the same thing. So if I make game object a polymorphic class, I'll probably clear up errors 261, 294, and 328 and 359. So let's go do that. So, first of all, where was the error in the first place? It's at right here is the errors. So because I'm trying to call a dynamic cast. Apologize for that loud alarm. So I'm trying to, on current location, I'm trying to call the function get game objects, and then on that's going to return an inventory, a list of game objects, and then I'm going to call on this game object, passing an item name, and try to find a particular game object. So I want this ultimately to return to me a pointer to some item, and that's what I'm trying to cast it to, dynamic cast to an item pointer. So I'm trying to get this, and I want to cast it dynamically at runtime to an item pointer that I can store in this variable, which is item, which is a pointer to an item, indicated by this asterisk. I'm trying to do that here. I'm trying to do it down here as well. So in this transfer item function, obviously I'm expecting an item pointer, and I'm not getting one. So if I go up to transfer item, we'll find out where that is by doing a quick Control F. So as you can see here, we're expecting a reference, indicated by the ampersand. I'm expecting a reference to an item here, but instead I'm getting just a game object. So we need to fix this by going to the game object class. Why? Well, let's go to the item class first. We can see that item class item, extends is a derived class from game object. So we're going to go to game object and look to see if this is a dynamic class, a polymorphic class rather. We can see we got some instance variables. I've got a constructor, a parameterized constructor. Got some getters and setters. None of these functions are virtual, so I don't have anything virtual. So I haven't set this up as a polymorphic function. So I thought I did. I didn't. Quick, easy way to do that is to add a virtual destructor, which we're going to do using the keyword virtual. And it's trying to tell us, hey, do you want a virtual stood string method? Maybe later. Oh, but look at this. So it's the IDE is telling me, oh, here's a virtual destructor. I'm going to click yes. I'm going to give it a little comment, and that's it. So I've created a virtual destructor, and a destructor, has the same syntax as a no argument constructor. Same name as the class, empty open close parens, and then just empty body here. And I just put a little tilde in front of my constructor essentially. And the keyword virtual makes this a polymorphic function now. And this allows it so that way, the reason we have a virtual destructor is that way when the item, my derived class, goes out of scope, instead of calling the game object destructor only, it will also call the game object destructor, because that's how polymorphism works, but it'll also call its own destructor by having a virtual destructor. I can override it. But bottom line is, if I make that save, that change, That should fix quite a few errors for us. So that should fix the errors 261, 294, and 328 and 359. So let's see. And we can see we got rid of 261, we got rid of 294, and we got rid of the 300s because there's no 300s now. So there you go. And we'll fix something else in the next video. We'll look at whatever this is.